This is just a sample of the audiobook. To get the complete audiobook, access the link posted in the first comment.
After the roll call, we were marched across the field to a large shed. After we'd spent a couple of hours talking and dozing off, about 20 buses arrived. As we left the airfield, the bus went through part of the town of Benoit. The roads were crowded with all types of vehicles. There seemed to be no right of way. It was every driver for himself. The Vietnamese themselves were very small, and many of them wore funny-looking conical hats. After we arrived at the 90th Repo Depot, we were broken into groups. Then we were pointed to a large group of tents and told to find a vacant bunk. The sides of the tent were rolled up, allowing minimal air movement and maximum dust. Rows of sandbags had been stacked to a height of about 5 feet to provide some cover if mortars or rockets dropped on us. Our first night in the Republic of Vietnam was spent sitting on our cots, running over the events of the day. At 07:45, the loudspeakers ordered us to the first formation of the day. After roll call, the NCO in charge started calling out names. One small group was called out for the 4th Infantry Division, then another for some cavalry unit. Finally, he announced that the next group called would be for the 101st Airborne Division. About 30 men were called, including DeBurr and Gunther. We shook hands with them and wished them luck. We all hoped that at the next formation we would get assigned to the Screaming Eagles and be reunited with our friends. About 4:45, the loudspeakers started squawking, ordering us to fall out for formation. After roll call, the NCO started calling out names. I heard my name and was ordered to fall out to a smaller formation to the left of the main one. I double-timed over and found Leva waiting for me. As I listened to the other names being called, I found myself holding my breath. Finally, Croxdale's name was called, and he slid in between me and Leva and whispered, "You didn't think I'd leave you guys, did you, Lep?" Soon Bohm, Carpenter, Cardoza, and all the others were called, and we were relieved because we were going to stay together. We had been assigned to the 173rd Airborne Brigade, and we would ship out in the morning. As the trucks left Long Binh, the scene turned from hooches and bars to rice paddies and farm country. After about an hour, we arrived at the outskirts to the town of Benoit. The 173rd Airborne Brigade was deployed around part of Benoit Air Base. Within an hour, we were assigned to our units. Cardoza was assigned to the 1st Battalion. Croxdale, Leva, Carpenter, and I were assigned to C Company, 2nd Battalion. Bohm went to Alpha Company of the 2nd Battalion. All in all, we were still together, and we were finally part of a unit. Croxdale, Leva, and I were shown to a large tent where a young sergeant told us to pick empty cots and stow our gear. We were quiet because someone down the line was sleeping. After dropping my gear, I took a good look at home. There was an entrance at each end of the tent, and an aisle ran up the middle. There were about 15 cots on each side. The sides of the tents were rolled up halfway to allow any breeze that might grace this dust hole to blow through. Below the tent flaps, sandbags were stacked 4 to 5 feet high. After a half hour, another NCO took us to the supply room where we were each issued an M16, ammo pouches, rucksack, and other items. Back in the tent, we put on the faded, used jungle fatigues we'd been issued. The rifle that had been issued to me was in very poor shape, and the black plastic stock had faded to silver gray. I wondered what had happened to the last guy who'd carried it. It looked like shit, and I sure hoped it fired when it was needed. Croxdale agreed. His didn't look much better. By then, the Sleeping Beauty was up. He introduced himself as Katozi from Brooklyn. He had been in Nam for 9 months and told us he would help us get straightened away, because if we were going to get killed, it would happen in the first 2 to 3 months. "You guys see lots of action?" Croxdale asked. Kat said that we'd see more shit in 2 months than most Army units see in one tour. That got our attention. I began to worry what the hell we were going into. But if someone was to have told me that in the next 10 months, Leva, Croxdale, Carpenter, Bohm, and most of the others would be dead, I wouldn't have believed it. Around 1600 hours, groups of men started filtering back into the company area. Someone started passing out beer. "Hey, Cherry, you want a beer?" "Sure," I replied as he threw one to me.